In today's build, we are going to go through a Trickery Domain Cleric, more specifically your favorite Cleric party member Shadowheart, and we're hopefully going to make her usable with her terrible attribute spread and hopefully get you some good damage out of your Cleric. And it doesn't have to be a Trickery Domain Cleric that you make here, this is just some general Cleric tips as well. So, let's go. For those that have asked about my cats, there they are. As I mentioned, the main purpose of this build is to make Shadowheart more workable. She has a terrible attribute spread, and when I say terrible, I mean it's kind of mind-boggling. Like, why does she have 9 dexterity and so much charisma? I don't really understand. But we are going to do our best to build a melee-focused Trickery Domain Cleric because we can't really use range because she has terrible dexterity. So we're going to be focused on buffing your party and doing the occasional big hit of damage with Inflict Wounds or Guiding Bolt. Now, let's get into how you would build a custom character using this build. Starting off with the race, the Gold Dwarf is the best pick here for the +1 to Wisdom and the +2 to Constitution, as well as some of the extra weapon proficiencies that you get, like Warhammer and the axes as well. They are good one-handed weapons that you can use here instead of a mace, which is the default that you will get as a cleric. I could also see a case for a half elf, as you can put that extra point into wisdom and then put that other point into constitution and build the character out how you like there. You also get dark vision, so I do understand the possibilities of going some of these other races, but in my opinion, the gold dwarf for a melee cleric is the best option for the 1 wisdom and the +2 to constitution. If you're going to go ranged, I would suggest to go a wood elf for the +2 to dexterity. You get the 1 to wisdom as well as the bow proficiency, so you can use a longbow. In terms of background, anything that gives you proficiencies in the wisdom skills is what you want to go for here. So animal handling, insight, medicine, perception, and survival. Those are the key important skills that you'll want to have proficiency in, and this also translates to just your skill pickings as well. You want to focus on these skills. However, as always, skills are really personal preference. It's how you want to roleplay your character. For attributes, wisdom is your primary and should be set to 16, as well as constitution in the character creator, strength then onto 14, and dexterity onto 12 for your armor class, and then you can just dump intelligence and charisma as they're not really needed for this build. For building out the class itself, as we are going with the Trickery Domain Shadowheart here, we're going to build a Trickery Domain in the character creator. The domain differences here affect the spells you start off with, as well as the spells you gain as you level. To break it down simply, Light is a DPS build, Life is your healing builds, and Trickery gives you access to some of the roguelike spells, which again, super weird that Shadowheart is a Trickery Domain with no dexterity. But who am I to judge? For cantrips, the default options here, Resistance, Guidance, and Sacred Flame, are completely fine. The main option here that you have to pick up regardless of the other ones is Sacred Flame, as this is your primary ranged attack regardless of the domain that you choose. However, fair warning, it is pretty weak in the early access as it relies heavily on dexterity saving throws, which most of the enemies you'll face have a high dexterity, so this makes it really hard for this ability to hit. For your initial starting spells, I recommend to go a distant split between damage spells and supporting spells. The damage spells being Guiding Bolt for a really powerful ranged spell that you can use, and Inflict Wounds for a very strong melee focused spell that you can use. The 2 support spells that we are going to pick up is Healing Word, which is a bonus action spell which has good range that you can use freely while still having an action to attack, and Bless is going to be the other one to pick up as it gives you a 1d4 to attack rolls and saving throws for your party, and casting this on your party is super valuable for the extra hit chance, and most fights are decided based on whether you hit or miss most of your big powerful attacks that you do try to land on enemies. It's a make or miss league, so actually trying to land all of these hits and having this ability to get an extra 1d4 on these attack rolls is super valuable. Bless is also a concentration spell. What this means is that after you cast it, you have to maintain concentration on that spell. Concentration is broken by casting another concentration spell like Bane, or when they take damage. If they do take damage, they have to pass a constitution saving throw to maintain concentration on that spell. If you do have a high concentration, it means you have a higher chance of passing this saving throw, which is why it's valuable to have clerics with high concentration, like the Gold Dwarf option that we chose. Now, when you talk about leveling up, as with any build, this is when it really starts to come together. At level 2, you will gain the Channel Divinity Charge, which are powerful spells that you can use to consume this charge in between your rests. All clerics will get the Turn Undead spell, and the Trickery Domain get the Invoke Duplicity. Each domain will get a different secondary spell to use for this Channel Divinity Charge. The Invoke Duplicity spell, which does require concentration, allows you to gain advantage on enemies that are both close to the illusion and to you. This spell has limited uses and only really benefits your melee characters, but it is an option that you can choose in combat if you don't have Bane available, for example. But however, as you do level up, you will gain extra spell slots, and there are much better concentration spells that you can pick up, like Bless, which we've already talked about, and like Bane that you can use on enemies as well. At level 3, you will gain level 2 spell slots, which are Blindness, Hold Person, Silence, and Prayer of Healing. Prayer of Healing is a decent party-wide heal that you can use outside of combat, but as a quick tip, you shouldn't prepare this spell unless you actually need it. Outside of combat, you can change your prepared spells at any time, so as this spell can only be used outside of combat, when you do need it, you just prepare it, use it, and then change back to another spell, so you're not wasting that prepared spell slot, if that makes sense. As a Trickery Domain, you will also gain Mirror Image, which is fantastic to increase your armor class, Pass Without a Trace, Aid, and Lesser Restoration. Most of these aren't really super valuable. They are very situational spells, but do have a look at them and see if they are something that you want to use regularly. At level 4, you can gain another Cantrip of Personal Preference, prepare another spell of Personal Preference, and you'll also gain a Feat. At this time, it is the best option to go the ability improvement and put both your points into Wisdom to get your Wisdom up to 18. I could honestly be convinced that with Shadowheart, you should put a point into Dexterity to get it to 10 so you don't get the disadvantage there, and a point into Constitution to get your Constitution onto a positive number as well. You could talk me into that, but with any other character, I would go Wisdom up to 18 for your level 4 feat. In terms of equipment that you should pick up, there is a good Mace and Shield you can both get from the Goblin camp by defeating their leaders. The Mace gives you the Fiery Fire on the target that you hit, which gives you advantage on attack rolls, again super positive for hit chance, and the Shield gives you a spell Absolute Protection, which is very situational. You probably won't use it very often, but it's still a decent shield that you can pick up. In terms of armor, I would be focusing on the Scale Mail or Lazil's piece of medium armor that she wears if you're not going to have her in your party with Shadowheart. If not, then just rock Scale Armor for the increase in armor class you get from that. The other gear you can pick up is really up to you and what works for your build, but these are the main things that I would definitely be focused on changing for Shadowheart at the very least. There is also a necklace which gives you Misty Step, which could be valuable to use as we are melee focused. You can use that to get into the combat quickly, as we don't have another way that we can close that distance very rapidly on a cleric character like this. Now let's go through some gameplay tips. Your focus in combat should be on having a concentration spell active, then healing any party member that does need heals, and then your last priority should be damage. That shouldn't be your top priority. It's about buffing your team, making sure everyone stays alive, and then damaging where you can. Concentration that you should be using is Bane or Bless. Bless is the most important one unless you are focusing on a target that deals a ton of damage, then you want to try and Bane that target so it doesn't actually hit you back. Don't waste your spell slots on healing yourself. If you do need healing as the cleric, you can eat some food even during combat to actually gain your health back. You don't want to waste your spell slots on yourself when you could just eat an item to heal yourself. High ground also doesn't matter for a cleric, as most of the spells you are using don't actually benefit from high ground. So it doesn't matter that we are not using high ground. You can just use your spells freely when you are in close range. And that is our Shadowheart cleric build. I hope it works out fine for you guys. Shadowheart is a really cool character, but unfortunately her attributes and her domain as well kind of let her down in some areas. So hopefully this build helps you with Shadowheart and using her in your party effectively. Do let me know in the comments below how you've built your cleric, or how you would even change this build if you wanted to build Shadowheart a different way. Please follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and on Twitch, where I stream 3 days a week, Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday, Australian night times. All of those links are in the description down below. Thank you for watching this video. My name is Norza, and I hope you have a great day.